They thought they had already crushed humanity, that after decades of relentless war, Earth would finally bow to the might of the Galactic Council. Entire fleets had been sent to obliterate human colonies, and entire star systems had been erased from the maps of civilized space. Alien commanders celebrated their victories, boasting that the human stubborn spirit had finally broken. But in the deepest corners of human space, far beyond the Council's sensors, a secret armada waited, one that no one had even dreamed could exist. It was a fleet born not of diplomacy, not of hope, but of fear, science, and sheer human determination. They called it the Dark Matter Armada, a name whispered in fear across the galaxy, even among the bravest alien captains, though none had seen it. Not yet. On the bridge of the flagship Aegis, Commander Elias Vance stood with his hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the darkness outside. The stars seemed to pale in comparison to the ominous black glow emanating from the engines of the ships behind him. Hundreds of warships, sleek, angular, almost invisible against the void, each powered by newly discovered dark matter reactors. These reactors bent space itself, allowing the ships to move faster than anything the Council's fleets could detect, striking without warning and disappearing before counterattacks could be launched. Every human pilot knew this day would come, the day when humanity would finally show the galaxy that it could not be underestimated. Vance's voice cut through the quiet hum of the bridge. All units report readiness. Dark matter propulsion systems at full charge. Weapons online. Cloaking systems active. One by one, the lieutenants confirmed, their voices steady but tense. Every crew member knew the stakes. Failure meant not just defeat, but total annihilation. There would be no mercy from the alien fleets. They had shown none to humanity. Yet there was a fire in every human heart, a mix of fear and resolve, the kind that only centuries of oppression and countless betrayals could forge. They had trained for this moment their entire lives, even if none of them had ever seen the enemy face to face. The Council believed humans were predictable, that they would fight only when cornered. They had underestimated humanity's ingenuity, the ability to turn desperation into a weapon sharper than any alien technology. On Earth, scientists had worked in secret for decades, bending the laws of physics to create engines that could manipulate dark matter, producing a fleet invisible to conventional sensors and capable of devastating attacks without warning. Entire squadrons could appear behind enemy lines in moments, tearing through defenses before the Council could even understand what was happening. This was not just war. It was a revelation, and humanity would be the one to deliver it. As the Armada moved in formation, a silent signal passed through the fleet. Not a word was spoken, not a warning given. The ships accelerated, their dark matter cores shimmering like ghostly flames, slipping through space like predators stalking prey. Far ahead, the Council's fleets moved in arrogance, their massive capital ships bristling with weapons, confident in their superiority. They had no idea that humanity was already upon them, that a storm of destruction invisible to their sensors was about to strike. Vance allowed himself a brief moment to reflect, the memories of Earth's long struggle flashing through his mind. Decades ago, humans had been scattered, forced into small colonies, struggling against starvation, isolation, and the constant threat of alien raids. Every defeat had been a lesson, every loss a spark that fueled innovation. Humans had survived by adapting, evolving, learning the weaknesses of their enemies and exploiting them ruthlessly. They were nothing if not relentless, and now, the galaxy would see the result of that relentless spirit. The first strike would be surgical, precise, and terrifying. Entire alien fleets that had once seemed invincible were about to be cut down in moments. Vance's voice returned, calm and authoritative. Initiate the strike sequence. Target coordinates locked. Engage. In the silent darkness, the human ships erupted. Beams of pure dark matter energy lanced out from the Armada, invisible at first, passing through shields and armor before detonating with catastrophic force. Alien captains screamed orders, their sensors failing to detect the invisible enemy. One by one, massive warships disintegrated, their cores imploding under the precision of the dark matter strikes. The Council's fleets were not prepared for this. They had faced conventional weapons, predictable attacks, and brute force, but nothing like this. The Armada did not slow. It moved like a phantom, striking, vanishing, reappearing in the most unexpected angles. Entire fleets were decimated within hours, and messages of panic spread through the alien command channels. "It is impossible. They are everywhere. They are nowhere," reports crackled in fear. Yet the humans moved as one, disciplined and unyielding, each crew member executing their role with deadly precision. On the bridge of the Aegis, Vance watched the destruction with a detached calm, knowing that this was only the beginning. Humanity would not stop until the Council understood the price of underestimating them. He thought of the colonies, the civilians, the countless lives lost to the Council's arrogance, and he felt the weight of revenge balanced with duty. This was a war for survival, for respect, for the right to exist in a galaxy that had tried to erase them. Even in victory, Vance knew they had to move swiftly. The Council would respond, adapt, and retaliate. But humanity had learned that speed, unpredictability, and ingenuity were the greatest weapons. The Dark Matter Armada was not just a fleet. It was a statement, a promise written in fire across the stars. Humanity would not kneel, and it would not be silenced. As the first phase of the attack concluded, entire sectors were in chaos. Alien fleets that had once seemed invincible now limped away in disarray, their commanders struggling to understand how an enemy they thought weak could dismantle their forces with such ease. Vance allowed a brief, almost imperceptible smile. Humanity's long wait was over. The war had changed. The tide had shifted. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. In the darkness of space, the Armada glowed faintly, a deadly constellation moving silently toward the next target. The Council had underestimated humanity for centuries, and that mistake would be written in the stars forever. This was not just a strike, it was a revolution. It was the day the Dark Matter Armada reminded the galaxy why humans were the most dangerous species in existence, and why no one should ever assume they could be broken. The silence returned, but it was no longer emptiness. It was a promise, a quiet before the storm that would sweep across every corner of the galaxy. Humanity had emerged from the shadows, armed with the most terrifying weapon ever conceived. And as the Armada moved, invisible and unstoppable, one truth became undeniable. The fate of the Galactic War had changed forever, and humanity was ready to claim its place among the stars. The galaxy erupted in chaos. Reports of disappearing fleets and destroyed stations spread like wildfire through the Galactic Council's networks, but no one could locate the source. Panic became a constant hum in every command center, every alien officer whispering rumors of an enemy that could strike without warning. The humans were ghosts, phantoms that moved faster than their sensors could detect, their dark matter armada slicing through space like a scythe of invisible fire. On board the Aegis, Commander Vance watched the battle unfold with calculated detachment. He had fought in countless wars, seen planets burn, and felt the weight of losing billions of lives. But this was different. This was the culmination of everything humanity had endured, the payoff of centuries of survival and ingenuity. Every ship, every crew, every pilot knew their role to perfection. The fleet moved as one, a coordinated predator stalking prey across the stars. The first wave had shattered the Council's defenses, but Vance knew the aliens would regroup. He activated the next sequence. The dark matter generators surged with a blinding energy, and the ships began to phase in and out of reality, rendering their movements almost impossible to track. Even the fastest Council ships struggled to follow them, firing blindly at empty space while their own comrades were obliterated beside them. The Armada struck with terrifying precision, capital ships imploding from attacks that seemed to come from nowhere, entire squadrons evaporating in seconds. Meanwhile, Across the galaxy, individual human squadrons executed daring maneuvers that defied logic. Pilots dove into asteroid belts, using the terrain to ambush unsuspecting alien ships, their dark matter engines allowing them to vanish moments before enemy fire could reach them. Boarding parties deployed silently from cloaked vessels, cutting through alien crews with ruthless efficiency before disappearing again into the void. Every attack was a message. Humanity would not bow, it would not surrender, and it would strike where the enemy was weakest. In the Council's central command, chaos reigned. Generals shouted over crackling communications, desperately trying to coordinate a response, but every plan failed. Every fleet that moved to intercept was already gone, destroyed before it could even engage. Fear spread faster than their weapons could fire, and doubt seeped into the minds of even the most disciplined commanders. How could a species they had deemed primitive, fragile, and predictable cause so much devastation so quickly? Every calculation they had made about humans was shattered. Vance allowed himself a moment of reflection as he watched the destruction through the bridge's observation window. The glow of distant explosions painted the darkness with a sickly red light, a visual symphony of chaos and human ingenuity. He thought of the countless sacrifices that had led to this moment. Scientists who had risked everything to develop the dark matter engines, soldiers who had trained their entire lives for precision strikes, civilians who had endured years of war and occupation without surrendering. Humanity had been forged in adversity, and now the galaxy would witness the full extent of that fire. The humans pressed their advantage, striking at key supply routes, communication hubs, and command stations. Every victory was swift, surgical, and devastating. Entire systems fell before the Council could mount a defense, and the alien forces began to fracture under the pressure. Some attempted to retreat, but the humans anticipated every move. The Armada moved like a living entity, sensing weaknesses, exploiting gaps, and eliminating threats with ruthless efficiency. As the battle raged, Vance coordinated a simultaneous strike on the Council's main communication nexus. If the alien forces could no longer coordinate, the war would collapse in disarray. Using dark matter pulse disruptors, human ships jammed transmissions and disabled sensor arrays across multiple sectors. For the first time in the war, the Council's generals were operating blindly, their commands falling on deaf ears as their fleets were decimated one by one. The advantage humanity had fought so hard to achieve was now absolute. On the front line, individual human captains made choices that showcased both bravery and calculated risk. Captain Lyra Chun piloted a stealth frigate through a dense nebula, emerging behind a Council dreadnought. Without hesitation, she unleashed a barrage of dark matter torpedoes, each one striking with pinpoint accuracy. The dreadnought erupted in a violent explosion that illuminated the surrounding void, its remains drifting silently as the frigate vanished once more into the darkness. Chen's squadron repeated the maneuver across the sector, creating chaos and fear in equal measure. Back on the Aegis, Vance monitored every movement, adjusting strategies in real time. He spoke calmly to his officers, his voice carrying the weight of authority and certainty. Anticipate their counterattacks. Every move they make is predictable to someone who has studied their patterns. Use that knowledge. Strike where they are weak, not where they are strong. Humanity doesn't retreat. Humanity doesn't surrender. Humanity survives, and it conquers. The Armada's reputation began to spread even faster than their physical presence. Reports filtered in from distant systems of alien fleets encountering what they described as invisible assassins, disappearing and reappearing at impossible angles, striking with devastating force, then vanishing without a trace. Panic became contagious, spreading from ship to ship, fleet to fleet, until even the most disciplined commanders questioned their ability to continue the fight. Fear had become the weapon of the humans. Amplified by the technology and tactics they wielded with unmatched precision. Despite the overwhelming success, Vance remained vigilant. He knew the Council would not submit easily, that new strategies, desperate and deadly, would emerge. But humanity had evolved beyond simple reactions. Every attack, every maneuver was designed to test, adapt, and exploit. The fleet moved with a fluidity that seemed almost supernatural, a combination of human intuition and technological mastery that no alien species could match. Hours turned into days as the Armada carved a swath of destruction across key sectors. Entire fleets that had once been considered invincible were reduced to drifting wrecks. Communication channels filled with frantic messages, some begging for surrender, others cursing the humans in disbelief and terror. The Council's arrogance had blinded them. Their assumptions had underestimated human ingenuity, and now they were paying the price in blood and fire. Vance allowed a rare smile to cross his face as he surveyed the battlefield. Humanity's dark matter armada had not just changed the tide of the war, it had shattered it. Systems previously thought lost were now within striking range, and the enemy's confidence had evaporated. But even as victory seemed within grasp, he reminded himself and his crew that the war was far from over. The Council would fight back, and the humans would need every ounce of skill, courage, and cunning to survive the coming storm. The silence between battles was thick with tension. The humans knew that each victory carried the weight of expectation and consequence. Every decision could mean life or death for billions. Yet, in that silence, there was also determination, a quiet but unbreakable resolve that humanity would not only survive, but dominate. The Dark Matter Armada was more than a fleet. It was a symbol of human resilience, intelligence, and the unyielding spirit that no enemy, no matter how powerful, could extinguish. And so, as the Armada prepared for the next phase of its assault, a singular truth became undeniable. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage, not as victims, not as pawns, but as a force that would be remembered for generations. The Council had underestimated them, and the galaxy would learn that underestimating humans was a mistake that could never be forgiven. The galaxy had never seen war like this. Entire fleets vanished before a single shot could be fired. Command stations were reduced to drifting rubble, and panic consumed the minds of alien officers who had once considered themselves invincible. Humanity's dark matter armada had become more than a fleet. It had become a living nightmare, a phantom predator moving silently through the stars. Yet even as the aliens scattered and fled, the humans knew that victory demanded more than destruction. It required precision, strategy, and relentless pressure. Commander Elias Vance stared at the holographic map projected above the bridge of the Aegis. Every red that represented a council fleet, each one desperately regrouping after the initial onslaught. Blue dots flickered across the display, the positions of human ships, moving in impossible formations, phasing in and out of reality thanks to the dark matter engines. Vance traced a line with his finger, plotting the next strike. We hit their supply lines next. No mercy. They will not have time to rebuild. Every sector they thought safe is a target. On the front lines, Captain Lyra Chun piloted her stealth frigate through the debris of destroyed stations. Smoke and fire from explosions illuminated the void in eerie bursts. Her crew moved like a single organism, coordinating attacks, scanning for any sign of enemy movement. A council battleship emerged from the darkness, its massive guns tracking targets with deadly precision. Chun smiled grimly. Prepare the torpedoes. Let's give them a lesson in invisibility. The frigate surged forward, its dark matter engine bending space around it. For a fleeting second, it became intangible, slipping past the enemy's targeting sensors as if it were nothing but a shadow. Then, torpedoes streaked silently through space, striking the dreadnought's engines. A chain reaction erupted, tearing through the ship's core. Crew members aboard the human vessel cheered silently, knowing that in moments, the enemy would cease to exist. True to their training, they phased out before a single counterattack could reach them. Meanwhile, across multiple sectors, human boarding parties executed synchronized attacks. Cloaked ships slipped into enemy stations, cutting off communication lines and planting charges in vital systems. Alien soldiers scrambled, firing blindly at empty corridors while human teams advanced with ruthless efficiency. Every kill, every destruction of a communication hub sent waves of fear through the remaining Council forces. They had underestimated humanity's ingenuity, and now they were paying the price in blood. Back on the Aegis, Vance monitored the unfolding chaos. He observed an enemy admiral attempting to regroup a fleet near the Orion Rift, a sector notorious for its dense asteroid fields. Most species avoided it, claiming it was impossible to navigate, but humans thrived in such environments. Dispatch 3 squadrons. Use the asteroid field. Force them into a trap they won't see coming, Vance ordered calmly, his voice carrying the weight of unshakable confidence. The squadrons accelerated, weaving between massive rocks and cosmic debris, their dark matter engines flickering in and out of visibility. Alien ships, larger and slower, struggled to maneuver in the chaotic environment. Human pilots exploited every blind spot, firing torpedoes that detonated with pinpoint accuracy. Ships exploded in cascading waves of fire and metal, their remains scattering across the rift like flotsam in a storm. The human assault was methodical, unrelenting, and devastating. Even as victories mounted, Vance reminded his crew that the Council would not remain passive. They were cunning and adaptive, capable of learning from each encounter. They will strike back, he said quietly, but they will never strike first. Humanity dictates the terms of this war. Remember that. His words were a calm anchor amid the chaos, instilling focus and determination. In the darkness beyond the rift, another human strike force prepared for a risky operation, a direct assault on the Council's orbital weapon platform orbiting Karath 5. The platform was heavily defended, bristling with plasma cannons and shield generators. Many species would have considered it untouchable, but humanity thrived on audacity. The squadron phased into the planet's shadow, invisible until the last possible moment. Energy beams lanced out, tearing through the defenses as boarding pods launched silently. Within minutes, the platform was under human control, its weapons now silent, its defenses dismantled. Another blow to the Council's perception of invincibility. Elsewhere, a Council commander attempted a desperate counterattack using experimental ships equipped with advanced cloaking technology. He expected the humans to struggle, to falter against this unseen threat. He was wrong. Human sensors, enhanced by dark matter manipulation, detected the cloaked vessels instantly. Fighters streaked forward, striking with surgical precision. The enemy ships erupted in flames before they could even return fire. Every action, every decision, reinforced a single, terrifying truth. Humanity had evolved beyond conventional warfare. As the day turned into night cycles on distant colonies, the psychological impact of the dark matter armada became clear. Alien commanders began to doubt themselves, questioning whether they had underestimated humanity so severely that survival was impossible. Panic spread faster than fleets could move. Morale shattered as their own soldiers reported ships disappearing into nothingness and entire battalions being eliminated without warning. Fear had become a weapon, amplified by human innovation and the unyielding resolve of those who refused to surrender. Vance's eyes never left the map. He saw a cluster of enemy ships attempting to flank the main human fleet near the Viridian Expanse. Deploy interceptors. Cut them off. They won't escape, he ordered. Seconds later, squads emerged from the shadows, surrounding the Council vessels from every angle. There was no room for retreat, no chance for escape. The alien ships were obliterated in a dazzling display of dark matter weaponry, leaving only wreckage drifting silently in space. Even as the battle raged, humanity maintained discipline. Civilian evacuation efforts continued on colonies under threat. Medical teams prepared for casualties, and logistics ships delivered supplies to frontline units. Humans fought not only with firepower but with strategy and care, ensuring that every life was valued, every victory was sustainable. It was a war unlike any other, combining brute force with calculated precision, chaos with discipline, terror with humanity. Vance allowed himself a brief moment of reflection as another sector fell under human control. He remembered the countless lives lost in earlier stages of the war, the colonies destroyed, the families torn apart. Humanity had endured centuries of oppression, but those scars had forged resilience. The Dark Matter Armada was the embodiment of that resilience, a force designed not only to fight, but to inspire awe and fear across the galaxy. Reports continue to stream in, each more staggering than the last. Entire alien fleets had been annihilated, supply lines cut, communication hubs disabled, and strategic positions captured. The Council scrambled to respond, but their efforts were fragmented, disorganized, and increasingly futile. Humanity had seized the initiative, controlling the tempo and location of every engagement. The tide of the war had shifted irrevocably, and every alien species now knew that underestimating humans was the gravest mistake they could make. As the Dark Matter Armada prepared for the next series of strikes, a singular truth was undeniable. The galaxy had witnessed the birth of a new era. Humans were no longer prey. They were hunters, predators armed with technology and tactics beyond comprehension. The Council's arrogance had blinded them, their assumptions shattered. Humanity had returned, not with pleas or surrender, but with a vengeance that would be remembered for generations. And so, as stars streaked past the Aegis, Commander Vance gazed into the void, a quiet determination etched on his face. The war was far from over, but one fact had become impossible to ignore. Humanity was unstoppable, a force of nature born from survival, intelligence, and the unyielding will to prevail. The Dark Matter Armada had changed the rules of engagement forever, and the galaxy would never forget the day humans reminded them why they were feared. The Council refused to accept defeat. News of lost fleets and shattered command stations spread across their empire like wildfire, sparking panic and outrage. Entire sectors were in chaos. Admirals argued over strategies that had already failed, and soldiers whispered of an enemy they could not see, could not predict, and could not stop. Humanity's Dark Matter Armada had become more than a weapon. It had become a symbol, a living proof that the Council's arrogance had blinded them for centuries. Commander Elias Vance stood on the bridge of the Aegis, eyes scanning the battlefield projected before him. Every dot of red represented an alien vessel attempting to regroup, to mount a counterattack. But Vance knew their desperation made them predictable. Humanity had studied the Council's tactics, learned their weaknesses, and mastered the art of striking without warning. "Prepare the intercept vectors," he commanded, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of absolute authority. "They'll try to hit us where we're weakest. Let them. We'll meet them where they least expect it." In the Viridian Expanse, alien forces gathered, their largest fleet yet, determined to crush the human attackers once and for all. Massive dreadnoughts bristled with weapons, frigates formed impenetrable formations, and electronic jamming pulses swirled in anticipation of human tactics. They believed sheer size and firepower could compensate for the chaos humanity had inflicted. Yet as they moved forward, they failed to notice the invisible predators waiting for them, squadrons of human ships phasing through space, their dark matter engines rendering them intangible, untouchable, and utterly lethal. Captain Lyra Chun led a team of interceptors through the asteroid belt surrounding the expanse. The terrain was treacherous, a chaotic labyrinth of massive rocks and debris fields, but humans excelled in environments others deemed impossible. Chen's squadron moved like shadows, phasing in and out, weaving through danger with instinctive precision. Sensors tracked the Council's fleet, calculating the exact moment to strike. Then, almost simultaneously, they appeared behind the largest ships, launching torpedoes that tore through engines and shields. The explosions illuminated the void, fireball after fireball drifting silently as the alien fleet reeled in disbelief. Chaos erupted among the Council forces. Officers shouted commands over failing communication channels. Dreadnoughts turned too late. Frigates collided as pilots tried to evade unseen attacks, and entire squadrons were obliterated before they could respond. Fear spread faster than the humans could move, a contagious terror amplified by the precision and ruthlessness of every strike. Humanity had mastered not only the technology of war, but the psychology of it, turning every attack into both a physical and mental blow. Meanwhile, on Kara 5, a daring human operation unfolded. A heavily fortified orbital station, once thought untouchable, was now a target. Human boarding pods, cloaked and silent, emerged from the shadows, cutting through the Council's outer defenses. Alien soldiers scrambled, firing blindly at empty corridors, while human teams moved like a shadow army, neutralizing threats and sabotaging the station's core systems. The station's massive guns fell silent, its shield generators offline, leaving it exposed to human control. Vance watched the operation with quiet satisfaction. Each victory was more than destruction. It was a statement, a lesson that humanity refused to be underestimated. Back on the Aegis, Vance coordinated a multi-sector strike. The Council, desperate and disoriented, attempted to consolidate their forces near the Orion Rift, hoping to trap the human armada. But humans anticipated every maneuver. Squadrons phased through space, striking from angles no alien commander could predict. Capital ships imploded as dark matter torpedoes tore through shields, while boarding teams eliminated command crews, leaving the remaining forces leaderless and panicked. Every move reinforced a single truth. Humanity dictated the terms of this war. Reports filtered in from distant colonies. Entire fleets had vanished, orbital platforms were destroyed or captured, and supply lines were severed across multiple sectors. The psychological impact was devastating. Soldiers questioned their superiors, admirals doubted their own strategies, and the Council's once-feared reputation crumbled under the weight of fear and disbelief. The humans had shattered more than ships. They had shattered confidence, proving that sheer arrogance was no match for intelligence, discipline, and adaptability. In the midst of battle, a Council admiral attempted a desperate gambit. Deploying experimental stealth ships capable of cloaking completely, he hoped to strike the human armada unexpectedly, believing that invisibility could counter the human advantage. But the humans had already adapted. Dark matter sensors detected the ships instantly, tracking every movement. Interceptors launched, striking before the enemy could even return fire. The experimental vessels erupted in flames, leaving only debris floating silently in the void. Another brilliant gambit had failed, reinforcing humanity's dominance in the theater of war. As the battle stretched across light years, human crews displayed unshakable coordination. Pilots navigated asteroid belts, debris fields, and nebulae with instinctive skill, striking with surgical precision while avoiding retaliation. Boarding teams executed operations that seemed impossible, neutralizing stations and command hubs with minimal losses. Logistics ships moved alongside the fleet, delivering supplies and medical aid, ensuring that every victory was sustainable. Humanity had transformed warfare into an art of precision, adaptability, and psychological dominance. Vance allowed himself a rare moment to reflect. He remembered Earth's long struggle. Colonies under siege, civilians facing starvation, scientists and soldiers sacrificing everything to survive. Humanity had endured centuries of adversity, and now that resilience had manifested as unstoppable force. The dark matter armada was more than ships and weapons. It was a testament to the human spirit, a living proof that intelligence, courage, and determination could overcome even the most overwhelming odds. Across the battlefield, alien commanders panicked. Fleets fragmented, orders were ignored, and ships collided as pilots acted out of fear. Entire sectors fell to humans almost effortlessly, their once powerful forces reduced to scattered remnants. Humanity had not just won battles, they had rewritten the rules of engagement. Every movement, every strike, was calculated to maximize fear, confusion, and destruction, leaving no doubt about who controlled the war. Yet, even as victory seemed imminent, Vance knew the Council would not surrender easily. They would strike back, adapt, and try to regain control. But humans had already proven their superiority. They had turned desperation into strategy, chaos into opportunity, and invisibility into terror. The Dark Matter Armada was no longer just a fleet. It was a phenomenon, a force that reshaped the entire war and instilled awe and fear across the galaxy. As the Armada prepared for the next assault, the galaxy held its breath. Human ships phased silently through space, their engines bending reality, their weapons invisible until the moment of annihilation. Entire fleets vanished without warning, leaving destruction in their wake. Across the stars, humans fought not only for survival, but for supremacy, proving that their ingenuity, courage, and relentless will could never be matched. In the darkness of space, Commander Vance gazed at the unfolding chaos, calm and composed. The Council's arrogance had blinded them, their assumptions shattered. Humanity had returned, not as a species to be underestimated, but as a predator that dictated the terms of every engagement. The Dark Matter Armada had changed the war irrevocably, and the galaxy would never forget the day humans reminded them why they were feared above all others. And so, as stars streaked past the Aegis, explosions erupted in distant sectors, signaling both destruction and dominance. Humanity had not just won battles. They had rewritten the rules of war itself. The Council could regroup, they could plan, they could retaliate, but the shadow of the Dark Matter Armada loomed over every sector, a constant reminder that underestimating humans was a fatal mistake. The war was far from over, but one fact had become undeniable. Humanity was unstoppable, and the galaxy would never again see them as prey. The Council refused to accept their losses. Reports of destroyed fleets and shattered stations had spread across every sector, triggering panic and infighting. Admirals blamed one another, generals questioned their own strategies, and soldiers whispered of an enemy that could strike without warning, vanish, and strike again. Humanity's Dark Matter Armada had become more than a weapon. It had become a living nightmare, a force that haunted every command channel, every fleet, every war room. Commander Elias Vance stood on the bridge of the Aegis, eyes fixed on the holographic map glowing before him. Red dots flickered and moved, representing enemy ships attempting to regroup after crushing defeats. But Vance knew their desperation made them predictable. Humanity had studied the Council's tactics, understood their patterns, and turned that knowledge into a weapon. "Prepare the intercept vectors," he commanded. "They'll try to hit us where they think we're weakest. Let them. We'll strike first, strike fast, and strike unseen." In the Viridian Expanse, a massive Council fleet assembled for a counterattack. Dreadnoughts bristled with weapons, frigates formed defensive formations, and electronic jammers pulsed across space, attempting to confuse sensors. They believed sheer size and firepower could overwhelm humans, but they had not counted on human ingenuity. Pilots trained in dark matter navigation could phase in and out of reality, striking from angles the Council couldn't anticipate, disappearing before a single retaliatory shot could connect. Captain Lyra Chen's squadron moved silently through the debris of destroyed stations and asteroid belts. Her pilots weaved with precision, the dark matter engines flickering as they phased in and out of visibility. Sensors locked on the enemy, plotting trajectories with near-perfect accuracy. In one coordinated maneuver, her squadron emerged behind the lead dreadnought, torpedoes streaking silently through space before detonating with surgical precision. The enemy ship erupted in a violent explosion, fragments scattering across the void. Chen's team vanished moments later, leaving no trace behind. Panic spread through the Council fleet. Officers shouted commands that went unanswered. Ships collided as pilots reacted instinctively to invisible attacks, and dreadnoughts turned too late to avoid annihilation. Fear rippled through every sector, amplified by the precision of human strikes. Humanity had not only mastered technology, they had mastered the art of psychological warfare, turning every engagement into both a physical and mental attack. Meanwhile, on Karath 5, a heavily fortified orbital station bristled with plasma cannons and shield generators. Most species considered it untouchable. Yet, a human boarding team emerged silently, deploying pods that phased through the station's outer defenses. Soldiers scrambled to respond, firing blindly at shadows, while human teams cut through corridors with ruthless efficiency. Within minutes, the station's weapons fell silent, its shields offline, and human control was complete. Another critical victory, another proof that nothing could withstand the precision and cunning of humanity. Back on the Aegis, Vance coordinated multiple simultaneous strikes. The Council tried to consolidate forces near the Orion Rift, hoping to trap the human armada. But humans anticipated every move. Squadrons phased through the chaos, striking from unexpected angles. Capital ships imploded under dark matter torpedoes, and boarding teams eliminated enemy command crews, leaving fleets leaderless and panicked. Humanity dictated the pace, the location, and the outcome of every battle. Reports from distant colonies confirmed the scale of destruction. Entire fleets had vanished, supply lines were severed, and strategic stations were captured or destroyed. Alien commanders were paralyzed with disbelief. Their assumptions about human weakness had been shattered. Morale collapsed as soldiers questioned their leadership, while the remaining fleets struggled to regroup. Humanity had not only won battles, they had rewritten the rules of engagement. The Council attempted a desperate countermeasure, deploying experimental stealth vessels designed to cloak completely and ambush the humans. They believed invisibility could restore their advantage. But the humans were prepared. Dark matter sensors detected the cloaked ships instantly. Interceptors launched, striking with precision before the enemy could respond. Explosions tore through the experimental vessels, leaving only debris floating in the void. Another desperate gambit had failed, reinforcing humanity's dominance. Vance observed the battlefield with unwavering focus. Every human pilot executed maneuvers with instinctive precision. Boarding teams neutralized stations and command hubs with minimal losses. Logistics ships moved in tandem, delivering supplies and medical aid, ensuring that every victory was sustainable. Humanity had transformed warfare into a blend of strategy, precision, and psychological dominance. Every action reinforced their reputation as a species that could not be underestimated. Hours turned into cycles of relentless assault. Alien fleets were fragmented. Entire sectors fell under human control, and fear permeated every corner of the Council's empire. Humans struck not only with firepower, but with intelligence and adaptability, turning desperation into opportunity. No maneuver by the Council went uncountered. No fleet remained untouched. Humanity controlled the tempo, the location, and the outcome of every engagement. Vance allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. He remembered Earth's long struggle. Colonies under siege, civilians facing starvation, scientists and soldiers risking everything. Humanity had endured centuries of adversity, and now the resilience manifested as unstoppable force. The dark matter armada was not just ships and weapons. It was a living proof of human ingenuity, courage, and unyielding will. Across the battlefield, alien commanders panicked. Fleets fractured, orders were ignored, and ships collided as pilots acted out of fear. Entire sectors fell almost effortlessly to humans, once powerful forces reduced to scattered remnants. Humanity had not just won battles. They had rewritten war itself. Every move, every strike, was calculated to maximize fear, confusion, and destruction, leaving no doubt about who controlled the war. Even as victory seemed within reach, Vance reminded his officers that the Council would retaliate. They would adapt, strike back, and attempt to regain control. But humans had already proven their superiority. They had transformed desperation into strategy, chaos into opportunity, and invisibility into terror. The Dark Matter Armada was more than a fleet. It was a force that reshaped the entire war and instilled awe and fear across the galaxy. As the Armada prepared for the next assault, humanity's dominance was undeniable. Ships phased silently through space, striking where least expected, leaving fleets in ruins before they could react. The Council's arrogance had blinded them, and their assumptions about human weakness were shattered forever. Humanity had returned, not as prey, but as predators controlling the battlefield. Stars streaked past the Aegis as explosions erupted in distant sectors, signaling destruction and dominance. Humanity had not only destroyed fleets, they had rewritten the rules of war. The Council could regroup, plan, and retaliate, but the shadow of the Dark Matter Armada loomed over every sector, a constant reminder that underestimating humans was fatal. The war was far from over, but one fact was undeniable. Humanity was unstoppable, and the galaxy would never again see them as mere opponents. They were a force to be feared. The Council was desperate. Entire fleets had been shattered, supply lines severed, and critical stations captured or destroyed. Across the galaxy, whispers of humanity's unstoppable Dark Matter Armada spread fear into every command room. Officers no longer trusted their own strategies. Soldiers questioned the competence of their leaders, and even the most seasoned admirals were paralyzed by terror. Humanity had not just fought back, they had rewritten the rules of war. Commander Elias Vance stood on the bridge of the Aegis, silent, eyes scanning the vast holographic display of the battlefield. The Council had consolidated what remained of their forces near the citadel of Karath, the central hub of their military command. Massive fortifications, orbital weapon platforms, and energy shields made the citadel appear invincible, but humans had never relied on brute force alone. Vance's hand traced the star systems surrounding the citadel, calculating strike vectors, supply weaknesses, and potential ambush points. "This ends now," he said quietly. "We take the citadel, and we force the Council to realize that humanity is no longer prey. Humanity controls the war." In the outer sectors, Captain Lyra Chun led a squadron through a dense nebula surrounding the citadel. The Council believed it to be a natural barrier, a shield against any large-scale assault. But humans thrived in environments others avoided. The nebula's charged particles and chaotic gravitational fields were no obstacle. They were an advantage. Using dark matter engines, the ships phased in and out of visibility, slipping past sensor arrays, dodging detection, and positioning themselves perfectly for the assault. Meanwhile, human boarding teams prepared for the most audacious operation of the war. Pods carrying elite soldiers were loaded with high-yield charges and phased shielding to avoid detection. The plan was simple in theory but deadly in execution. Infiltrate the citadel, disable its primary defenses, and pave the way for the Armada to strike decisively. Every member of the team understood the stakes. Failure meant not just death, but the potential collapse of the human offensive. Success meant the complete destruction of the Council's command structure and a decisive turning point in the war. On the bridge of the Aegis, Vance coordinated every move with calm precision. The Armada moved like a single organism, each ship anticipating the next, each pilot executing their role with unflinching discipline. "Deploy the forward phasers in sequence," he ordered. "Strike their shield generators simultaneously. Boarding teams, move in the moment shields drop. Timing is everything." His voice carried the weight of absolute authority, the kind that could turn fear into focus and chaos into deadly efficiency. As the fleet approached the citadel, the first human strikes began. Dark matter torpedoes launched from the edge of the nebula, phasing through defenses and detonating inside shield generators. Explosions rippled across the orbital platforms, sending fragments of destroyed equipment hurtling into space. Alien crews scrambled to respond, but every countermeasure failed. The humans had anticipated every move, calculated every defense, and turned it against their enemy. Captain Chen's squadron moved in perfect formation, weaving through debris from previous strikes, phasing around energy fields, and preparing for the final assault. Her eyes were fixed on the Citadel, her hands steady on the controls. "Prepare to deploy boarding pods," she said. "This is it. No mistakes." The pods slipped through openings created by the torpedo strikes, carrying soldiers who phased through force fields and sensor grids to infiltrate the Citadel. Inside the orbital station, chaos erupted. Council officers ordered weapons to fire, shields to activate, and ships to engage, but the humans had already predicted every response. Boarding teams moved with deadly efficiency, neutralizing command crews, cutting power lines, and planting charges at critical junctions. The Citadel's massive defense systems faltered, blinked, and failed. Explosions tore through power conduits, shaking the station as human soldiers moved toward the central command core. Outside, the Armada pressed the attack relentlessly. Squadrons phased in from unexpected angles, striking Council ships that attempted to flee. Entire fleets disintegrated in seconds, their shields bypassed by the precise deployment of dark matter weapons. Panic spread like wildfire among the Council ranks, every officer realizing too late that the humans were not only attacking, but dictating the pace and location of every engagement. Humanity had seized total control of the battlefield. Within the Citadel, the boarding teams reached the core chamber. High-yield charges were placed on shield generators, weapons arrays, and the central communications hub. Vance's calm voice echoed through encrypted channels. "Detonate on my mark." Every soldier braced for the moment that would decide the war. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, with a single command, the charges exploded. The Citadel shuddered violently as shields collapsed, weapons offline, and communication arrays destroyed. Explosions lit up the orbital station, sending fragments into space. Alien soldiers tried to regroup, but the human boarding teams had already neutralized key command personnel. The Council's nerve center was in human hands. For the first time in the war, the aliens were leaderless, their fleets fractured, their plans in ruins. Humanity had seized control of the most fortified position in the galaxy, and with it, the momentum of the entire conflict. Outside, the Armada moved in for the final strike. With the Citadel's defenses down, human ships unleashed concentrated volleys of dark matter torpedoes, vaporizing remaining Council capital ships. Entire fleets crumbled, debris scattering across space like fallen monuments. The Citadel's destruction sent shockwaves across the galaxy, both literal and psychological. Alien commanders who had once been arrogant now trembled, their confidence shattered. Humanity had not just won a battle. They had rewritten the war itself. Commander Vance surveyed the battlefield from the Aegis, calm and composed. The Dark Matter Armada had executed a perfect combination of stealth, precision, and psychological warfare. Every move, every strike, every infiltration had been calculated to maximize impact and minimize losses. Humanity had demonstrated not only technological superiority, but tactical brilliance and unyielding resolve. The Council had underestimated them, and now the consequences were absolute. As the Armada phased out from the Citadel, moving silently toward the next objective, the galaxy bore witness to a new era. Humans were no longer prey. They were hunters, predators armed with the most advanced technology, the sharpest strategy, and the unbreakable will to survive. Entire fleets, stations, and sectors had fallen, and the remaining Council forces now faced a human enemy that seemed almost unstoppable. Vance allowed a rare smile to cross his face. The Citadel had fallen, the Council's command shattered, and the Dark Matter Armada had proven its dominance. But even in victory, he knew the war was not over. The Council would attempt retaliation, desperate strategies, and unpredictable maneuvers. Yet humanity had already shown that it could adapt faster, strike harder, and move unseen where others could not. The tide of war had shifted irrevocably, and humanity would not allow it to shift back. In the darkness of space, the stars shimmered like silent witnesses to the unfolding revolution. The dark matter Armada, invisible, unstoppable, and brilliant in its execution, moved forward. Humanity had taken the first decisive step toward victory, showing the galaxy why they could never be underestimated, why they had survived countless wars, and why they were destined to change the fate of the galactic order forever. The galaxy trembled. News of the Citadel's fall spread faster than any fleet could travel. Entire sectors that had once been firmly under the Council's control now quivered under human dominance. Fear rippled through alien ranks, their command structures crumbling as soldiers panicked, and admirals argued furiously over strategies that had already failed. Humanity's dark matter Armada had not only struck at the heart of the Council, it had shattered their confidence, leaving them exposed, vulnerable, and desperate. Commander Elias Vance stood on the bridge of the Aegis, watching the holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots, representing the remaining Council forces, flickered and scattered across the void, a testament to their desperation. The enemy was not yet defeated, but they were broken. "They'll make one last attempt," Vance said quietly, eyes narrowing. "They'll throw everything they have at us in a final gamble. We have to be ready." In the Viridian Expanse, the remaining Council fleet consolidated for a last-ditch offensive. Massive dreadnoughts bristled with weaponry. Experimental cloaked vessels moved into position, and desperate officers ordered electronic countermeasures across the sector. They hoped that sheer numbers and unpredictability could overwhelm the humans. But humans thrived in chaos. They had learned to turn desperation into opportunity, uncertainty into advantage. Every pilot, every officer, every soldier understood that humanity's strength was not just technology, it was strategy, precision, and an unbreakable will. Captain Lyra Chun led her interceptors through a treacherous debris field, weaving between shattered ships and asteroid fragments. Her squadron moved in perfect synchronization, phasing in and out of visibility with dark matter engines. Sensors tracked the Council fleet, calculating precise strike paths. "Engage at will," Chin said calmly. "We finish this now." The first wave struck with devastating force. Torpedoes ripped through shields and armor, disintegrating entire capital ships within moments. Alien crews fired blindly at shadows, but the humans were already gone, their movements impossible to predict. Chaos spread like wildfire. Entire fleets collided in confusion. Destroyers were vaporized, and officers screamed orders that fell on deaf ears. Humanity had mastered not only the art of war, but the art of fear, turning every strike into both physical destruction and psychological domination. Meanwhile, human boarding teams executed surgical operations across key stations. Cloaked pods slipped past sensors and defenses, neutralizing command crews and sabotaging critical systems. Explosions rocked stations as shields collapsed and weapon arrays were destroyed. Alien soldiers struggled to respond, but humans had already anticipated every defensive maneuver. Each operation was executed with flawless precision, leaving no chance for recovery. The Council's command was collapsing under pressure, and their desperation made them reckless. Back on the Aegis, Vance coordinated simultaneous assaults across multiple sectors. Squadrons phased through nebulae, debris fields, and asteroid belts, striking from unexpected angles. The Council attempted electronic warfare, jamming communications and sensor networks, but human dark matter sensors rendered these efforts useless. Every attack, every maneuver, reinforced a single truth. Humanity dictated the terms of every engagement, and the enemy's desperation only made them more predictable. In the outer sectors, a Council admiral attempted a bold gambit. Deploying experimental stealth dreadnoughts, he hoped to ambush human command vessels. But Vance had anticipated the move. Human interceptors phased in, striking simultaneously from 3 angles, tearing the dreadnoughts apart before they could fire a single shot. The remaining ships retreated in panic, their morale collapsing further. Humanity had proven that not even experimental technology could counter their adaptability. Amid the chaos, Vance remained calm, issuing orders with unshakable authority. Concentrate fire on their command ships. Protect our flanks. Do not allow them to regroup. The moment they falter, we strike harder. His crew moved with flawless coordination, each action a piece of a larger, unstoppable strategy. The Dark Matter Armada was not just a fleet, it was a living, thinking entity executing plans with the precision of a single mind. Captain Chen's squadron moved toward the Council's final defensive line near the Orion Rift. Massive warships formed an almost impenetrable barrier, but humans had calculated every weakness. Dark matter torpedoes phased through shields and detonated inside engines, triggering catastrophic chain reactions. Ships erupted in fireballs that illuminated the void, debris scattering as the remaining alien vessels struggled to regroup. Chen's interceptors vanished before any counterattack could connect, leaving devastation in their wake. Inside the Citadel ruins, human boarding teams continued their work. Command cores were dismantled, weapons arrays destroyed, and communication hubs disabled. Alien personnel were neutralized or captured, leaving the Council unable to coordinate even a single counteroffensive. Humanity had seized total control, and the remnants of the Council forces were left leaderless, disorganized, and terrified. Every sector fell under the strategic control of humans, and the galaxy began to see a new order taking shape. Reports streamed in from distant colonies. Entire fleets were gone, orbital platforms destroyed, and supply lines cut. Alien soldiers whispered of humans as ghosts, phantoms that could strike anywhere and vanish instantly. Panic spread faster than any fleet could respond. Humanity's psychological warfare had reached a new height. Fear was no longer a tool, it was a weapon. Every human maneuver reinforced the belief that resistance was futile. Even as victory approached, Vance reminded his officers that the Council would not surrender easily. They would attempt desperate measures, deploy every remaining weapon, and try to regain control. But humans had adapted beyond predictability. They could anticipate, counter, and exploit every move. Dark matter sensors, phased engines, and tactical genius had transformed the Armada into an unstoppable force, capable of outmaneuvering any threat. As the final alien fleets prepared for one last strike, the humans executed a coordinated operation across multiple sectors. Torpedoes struck simultaneously at shield generators, command ships, and supply lines. Boarding teams neutralized remaining stations, cutting off any chance of retreat or regrouping. Entire enemy fleets were obliterated before they could respond, their ships drifting silently as human forces phased into position for the next engagement. Vance allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. The Citadel had fallen, the Council's command shattered, and the Dark Matter Armada had proven its superiority. Humanity had transformed warfare into a combination of precision, psychological dominance, and unyielding strategy. Every victory had been earned through skill, discipline, and the unbreakable will of a species that refused to surrender. In the aftermath of the final battle, the galaxy was silent. Entire fleets had been destroyed, stations reduced to rubble, and alien morale shattered. The Council, once arrogant and untouchable, had been humbled. Humanity had proven that survival, ingenuity, and determination could overcome even the most powerful adversaries. The Dark Matter Armada had become a legend, a force that would be remembered for generations. Commander Vance gazed at the stars, calm and composed. Humanity had survived, endured, and conquered. The Council had underestimated them, and the consequences had been catastrophic. Entire fleets had fallen, sectors were liberated, and the galaxy had witnessed the rise of a species that could not be contained. The Dark Matter Armada had changed the fate of the Galactic War, proving that humanity was unstoppable and the Council would never again underestimate them. The Armada moved forward, silent and unseen, phantoms of dark matter shaping the future of the galaxy. Humanity had emerged from the shadows, not as victims, but as hunters, predators, and rulers of a new order. The war had reached its climax, and one undeniable truth remained. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The galaxy held its breath. After countless battles, ambushes, and devastating strikes, the Council's forces were shattered beyond repair. Entire fleets drifted as debris in the void. Command stations lay in ruins, and panic gripped the surviving alien officers. Humanity's dark matter armada had not just survived. They had dominated, outmaneuvered, and rewritten the rules of war. But victory demanded one final blow: the eradication of the Council's remaining command, the heart of their arrogance and power. Commander Elias Vance stood on the bridge of the Aegis, calm, composed, and unwavering. The holographic map displayed the last bastion of Council resistance, the core citadel, the ultimate seat of alien military power. Its shields were the strongest in the galaxy, its armaments unmatched. But humanity thrived in situations others deemed impossible. Vance's hand traced the star systems surrounding the citadel, calculating every approach vector, every blind spot, every weak point. "This is it," he said quietly. "One final strike. We show the galaxy that humanity does not bow. We finish this." In the outer sectors, Captain Lyra Chun led her squadron through the dense nebula surrounding the citadel. The enemy expected a frontal assault, but humans had never relied on predictability. Using the dark matter engines, ships phased in and out of reality, slipping past detection, weaving through energy storms, and positioning themselves perfectly for the final assault. Chen's squadron was silent, invisible shadows moving like predators stalking the last prey of the galaxy. Human boarding teams prepared for the most audacious operation of the war. Pods carrying elite soldiers phased through the Citadel's outer defenses, invisible to sensors, impervious to shields. Their mission: infiltrate the Central Command Core, neutralize the remaining Council leaders, and plant high-yield charges to collapse the structure entirely. Every soldier understood the stakes. Failure would mean the resurgence of the Council. Success meant the end of the war. On the bridge of the Aegis, Vance coordinated the Armada with surgical precision. "Phase in on my mark. Torpedoes to shields, pods to the command core. Timing is everything. Any deviation, and we lose the advantage." His crew moved in perfect synchronization, each action part of a larger, unstoppable strategy. The dark matter armada was no longer just a fleet. It was a living, thinking entity executing plans with flawless precision. The first wave struck. Dark matter torpedoes phased through shields and detonated inside the Citadel's generator arrays. Explosions ripped through the orbital platforms, sending fragments scattering across space. Alien crews fired blindly at shadows, but the humans were already gone. The Council had miscalculated. Their defenses, though formidable, were meaningless against humans who could strike anywhere, anytime, and vanish without a trace. Captain Chen's squadron phased closer, guiding the boarding pods through the chaos. Soldiers slipped through the Citadel's defenses, neutralizing security protocols, and moving silently toward the command core. Alien officers tried to rally their forces, but humans had anticipated every contingency. Explosions rocked the Citadel as shield generators failed, weapon arrays went offline, and communication channels were destroyed. Humanity had seized control of the battlefield once again, demonstrating an unrelenting combination of strategy, precision, and psychological dominance. Outside, the Armada continued its relentless assault. Interceptors struck from every angle, obliterating the remaining enemy capital ships. Experimental stealth vessels that had been the Council's last hope were destroyed within seconds, their crews powerless against the humans' superior sensors and tactics. Panic spread like wildfire across the surviving Council forces. Their command was fractured, their fleets disorganized, and their morale shattered beyond repair. Humanity had achieved total battlefield control. Within the Citadel, boarding teams reached the command core. Charges were planted on shields, weapons arrays, and the central communication hub. Every soldier held their breath, knowing that the slightest miscalculation could doom the operation. Vance's calm voice echoed through encrypted channels. Detonate on my mark. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, with a single command, the charges erupted. The citadel shook violently. Massive explosions tore through its structure, collapsing shields, destroying armaments, and obliterating the remaining command hierarchy. Alien officers were eliminated or captured, leaving the Council powerless and leaderless. The last bastion of their power had fallen. Humanity's strategic genius had triumphed over arrogance, fear, and overwhelming odds. The Armada moved forward, sweeping through the remaining sectors to eliminate any pockets of resistance. Human ships phased in and out of visibility, striking with surgical precision, leaving fleets in ruins before they could respond. The Council's last attempts at retaliation were met with absolute annihilation. The galaxy witnessed the emergence of a force that could move unseen, strike without warning, and command the battlefield with unmatched skill. Vance observed the destruction, calm yet resolute. Humanity had survived centuries of oppression, endured countless wars, and now stood victorious. The Dark Matter Armada had not only defeated the Council, it had demonstrated the full extent of human ingenuity, courage, and unyielding will. Every maneuver, every strike, every operation had been executed flawlessly. Humanity had taken its rightful place as a dominant force in the galaxy. Reports came in from distant systems. Entire fleets destroyed, stations captured, colonies liberated. The Council, once feared and revered, had been humbled. Fear of humans spread across every alien species. The legends of the Dark Matter Armada grew with every transmission, every report, and every eyewitness account. Humanity had transformed from underdogs to galactic power, feared, respected, and unstoppable. In the aftermath of the final battles, the galaxy was silent for a moment, as if holding its breath in awe of the human achievement. The Council's empire had been shattered, and the path forward belonged to humanity. The Dark Matter Armada, though still unseen by many, had changed the fate of the galaxy forever. Entire civilizations recognized that humans were no longer prey. They were predators, rulers, and masters of war. Vance allowed a rare smile to cross his face. The war was over. Humanity had achieved victory not through brute force alone, but through intelligence, coordination, and the unbreakable spirit that had defined them for centuries. The galaxy would remember this day, the day humans showed the universe that their will was absolute, their strategy unmatched, and their power unstoppable. As the Dark Matter Armada phased silently through space, moving beyond the battlefields, humanity's legacy was secured. The Council would never rise again to challenge them, and the galaxy would know that humans were no longer a species to be underestimated. The war was won, and a new era had begun, one shaped, dominated, and ruled by humanity. In the darkness of space, the stars shimmered, reflecting the fire of countless battles and the brilliance of human triumph. The Dark Matter Armada, invisible and unstoppable, had rewritten history. Humanity had endured, survived, and conquered. The galaxy would never forget the day the humans returned from the shadows to claim their place as the ultimate force in the universe.